someone or something or some entity could do that without actually going down and taking the missile apart, the warhead apart to do that, is beyond explanation. The one that was died, that was shot, was examined very closely. X-rays were taken, samples were taken. And one of the things they found out was the suit, or maybe the skin, the outer texture of the ET, the entity, was in different layers. So they had to cut through, the Soviet pathologists had to cut through several different layers. And as according to our source, they weren't sure if they were cutting through skin or whether it was texture of some kind of a material. They didn't know. But they took samples of everything down to the actual organs. And the organs was one big organ, similar to what we knew about the Ebens, which was one organ, a heart and lung complex, something that resembled maybe a stomach or intestines. And they had white fluid in their system rather than our red, or we've seen entities with green fluid, but it had white fluid. The Soviet scientists or medical personnel, pathologists, it was unknown to them. One of the main things the Soviet scientists wanted to know was, were these things created, or were they were born like what our humans would be?
Yeah, were they grown like clones or programmed life forms? Are they, half machine, half organic? The fact that you mentioned all these layers, before you get to the organs, is very interesting. We've seen this in the projects a lot.
Yes, and I've seen it in when I worked for Association DARPA, that they had layers, and most of those with layers were the part humanoid and part robot, and they weren't the actual entities that were that had flesh and blood like we would consider a human. The Soviet personnel went inside the craft, and the inside of the craft was very, very simple. There were places for the entities to sit. There were similar metal chairs. There wasn't any knobs, switches, or buttons inside the craft. There was a large monitor in front of the seats. There was a panel that had similar to handprints, and that's it. As if the entities sat in these chairs and put their hands in these printed areas or grooves and maybe flew the craft that way, or maybe through their mind. But there wasn't any other rooms or compartments.
It's just one big hollow space.
Yes. Our analysts emphasized the fact that there wasn't any other rooms, little galleyways inside this craft. It was all one big area. Now, one of our scientists later on surmised that once it was on the ground, that's what we would see. But once it flew, these walls could be fluid or could change shapes. We actually saw this in a captured craft that we recovered in Nevada years ago, that once it was powered up, things inside that craft changed appearances. And that's what they think that would occur.